it rolling here on a busy Thursday morning. My goodness, the news doesn't end around here.
Also streaming on Facebook and X.
Thank you for that,
else.
Mark. You are in charge of that. So if that goes haywire, I can't yell at the engineers. I'm going to have to yell at you, although the engineers are in charge of everything around here. So, yes, that's right as well. We got the live feed going there. Facebook, X, YouTube. We're rocking and rolling. So this dropped yesterday at about, 5 in the afternoon. I was down in Lamar, Missouri yesterday for an event with Congressman Mark Alford and Americans for Prosperity. We'll get to that later in the show. But this news drops that the Kansas City Royals, and not even the Royals themselves, that's an unfair way to say it, but a Royals affiliate this month bought a large loan backed by Overland Park's Asperia campus, which, of course, is potentially a target location for a team stadium. That's the old Spring campus. This came from the Kansas City Business Journal. And they write here, property owner Occidental Management, Inc. told investors the transaction happened without its knowledge or support, potentially teeing up complications for future stadium plans. The Royals, in a statement, said they continue to explore all options for a new stadium in the community. A spokesperson said the team has not yet decided on a site and that any assertion to the contrary is inaccurate. So that came from the Royals after the statement in the Kansas City Business Journal. So I didn't see this till about 7 o'clock. I look at my phone after getting done with Alford, and I'm like, whoa, something happened here. Got to catch up. I read the Royals statement. I read the Kansas City Business Journal statement, and I'm like, okay, let's start making some phone calls. Luckily, I had to make some calls, John.
Well, I noticed I was fishing through the website, so you didn't catch it late. It kind of broke late, if you will. So,
yeah, this came down at 5 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday.
Yeah, right.
From the Royals.
Mm-hmm. Had the news on the TV, and I didn't quite catch it then, but I saw it on the website.
Yes. So I start fishing around a little bit, and I'm like, all right, what's going on here? Does this have anything to do with the Royals wanting to move to that location? Now, remember, we just had the big announcement that this financial tech firm, Fiserv, is moving to the Spring campus. The Spring campus is a large location that could theoretically hold the
Was
Royals.
it Operation Turtle?
Yeah, yes. They could hold Fiserv and the Kansas City Royals. Theoretically, that is possible. If you want to talk about ingress and egress of getting down to 119th and Null with a 2,000-person Fiserv operation and a baseball stadium, please blow my brains out now. That sounds terrible, but we'll set that aside. The bigger question was this. Does this have anything to do with where the Royals want to play baseball? And the conclusion in the people that I talked to was no. This was more of a business decision than anything else. This was an investment opportunity. This was a $232 million JP Morgan Chase loan secured by the 207-acre former Spring campus, sold on May 9th for roughly $164 million. This is according to the most recent loan service report from KeyBank. So this was more of a buying opportunity than it was like, we're going to buy this mortgage because we're going to be playing baseball there pretty soon. In fact, I can tell you in talking to people that when this news broke yesterday from the Kansas City Business Journal, the Royals and their lobbyists were scurrying around trying to get a hold of the Missouri governor and the legislature to say, this is not what you think it is. There was a fire drill of sorts going on where the Royals and their lobbyists were out there suddenly saying, boy, we got to nip this thing in the bud, because they did not want the Missouri legislature to perceive this as some type of leaked deal that they set up to basically try to squeeze Missouri ahead of their special session that begins on Monday. That was not the intended goal here. This thing just leaked because guess what? There are lawyers involved, there are financial people involved, and somebody got a hold in that world of the Kansas City Business Journal.
Memorial Day party.
Yeah, exactly. Anything like that could come up where people are saying, hey, Did you know this was happening? Oh, I didn't know that was happening. Oh, okay. Well, you know what? The Kansas City Business Journal is going to report it. This, because my first instinct was like, oh, the Royals definitely leaked this news to try to put the screws to Missouri. But then when I talked to people who were actually having conversations with those on the inside yesterday, it was like, no, this was not part of any grandiose. This is just awful timing and really bad luck for the Royals that this news comes out days before Missouri's set to have a special session to talk about potentially state funding for both of these teams in Kansas City. It is just awful timing. And I got to say, some of this has been self-inflicted, but the Royals have also been the victim of really bad timing, not all of which they can control on their end. Some of this has just been bad luck. Now, they're the ones who, of course, chose, or at least one of their affiliates or adjacent companies and holdings chose to invest in this specific location, which somebody should have known if they really didn't want to be there, would have sent off some fire alarms, and eventually people would have found out about it. But either way, this is just right now, with Missouri set to begin its special session here coming up pretty soon, this is not the news that the Royals wanted out there. Because Missouri, if you want to tick off Missouri, this is one heck of a way to do it. And that's why their lobbyists were scurrying last night, trying to get a hold of key lawmakers saying, this is not what you guys think it is. We promise you, we want to be in Missouri. We want to be downtown. We want to stay on this side of the state line. Don't read into this. That was their message last night to key lawmakers down in Jeff City with the special session set to begin coming up in just a few days. So that's where this is all at right now. Does it mean that radio hosts down the dial were right about Spring Campus being the future home of the Kansas City Royals? Goodness gracious, no. No, not at all. It does not mean that other radio hosts who claim that they were dotting the I's and crossing the T's on moving to Spring Campus are going to turn out to be right. They were still wrong because that was in no way true, that report from other radio hosts. No, it doesn't prove them right because they said that the deal was basically done at Spring Campus, and it's not even close to being done.
There was some guys circulating down there at Celebration at the station going, hey, did you hear about the deal out there at the Sprint Center? Not Sprint Center, but the Sprint Campus, yeah.
Yeah.
I hear the Royals, somebody's signing something.
Everyone's got a rumor that they're trying to push. Everyone's
Kept
trying to be
moving around,
right.
tapping people on the shoulder, telling them that.
There's always one of those guys, right?
I've heard the mayor say that Washington Square Park's the spot.
I know, yeah. Well, the mayor's going to be here at 7:30, so we seem to luck into it with good timing on talking to the mayor of Kansas City, Quinton Lucas. We will get his reaction to this. But do not read too much into this latest chapter of this Chiefs-Royals saga. And I know, for those of you on the text line saying, I'm sick of this story. Well, I kind of am too. But guess what? It's the biggest story in this town that will define the next generation for Kansas City from a sports standpoint and an infrastructure standpoint. And it's really a news and politics story. It's not really a sports story anyway. So as long as we've got, I think, valuable information that you're not going to get in other parts of Kansas City, we're going to keep bringing it to you. And we're not beating the dead horse here. There's another layer. There's another news angle to this thing that seems to come out every single day. So Mayor Lucas will be here at 7:35 this morning to react to this here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. So I was down in Lamar yesterday on the Missouri side of the state line, talked with Mark Alford, Missouri congressman, about the big, beautiful bill. And I asked him about this news that came up yesterday where Elon Musk was fairly critical of the big, beautiful bill and what he perceived to be the lack of cuts, courtesy of Doge, in the big, beautiful bill. What does Mark Alford have to say about that? But more importantly, or maybe just as importantly, what did the President of the United States have to say about that? Well, he addressed it yesterday, and we'll tell you coming up next on KCMO Talk Radio, rolling on 7:10 a.m. to start the show as we work on 95.7 FM. Or, of course, you can stream us by downloading the KCMO Talk Radio app.
Dave Ramsey here, and you're listening to Pete Mundo on KCMO Talk Radio, now airing on FM at 95.7.
So the big, beautiful bill, maybe we should call it the big, beautiful, but also admittedly kind of ugly bill. Maybe the bill's really like a solid 7, but not a 10, if you catch my drift here. It's 6:20 on a Thursday. Glad you're joining us on KCMO 95. Well, we're not on 95.7 FM to start the morning. We are on 7:10 AM. We've got our big, beautiful engineering staff out to correct the issues right now at the tower. So we are streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app, a great reason to have our app, and also on old school 7:10 AM. We've got our text line blowing up. One person saying, I feel like it's old school day. I'm listening on the AM. That's right.
Engineering guys are earning their money today for sure.
They are. And we love them for that. So Trump responded to some of the criticism yesterday from Elon Musk, where Elon told CBS 2 days ago, hey, I'm disappointed in the big, beautiful bill because I'm not seeing the Doge cuts that I wanted to see in this thing. And there's no doubt. I mean, if I have a criticism of the bill, it's the same thing. It doesn't do enough cutting. You got to keep the cuts coming.
The issue is they're not whacking enough.
Thank you, Mr. Wonderful. They are not whacking enough. And they did not whack enough. And now we end up in the situation where the big, beautiful bill does increase the deficit. Now, you hope that tax cuts will lead to more growth. That will lead to more revenues for the government. That's what happened back in 2017. All the fear-mongering of, oh, my goodness, this Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is going to blow out the deficit. It didn't. The government actually brought in more money than it ever had in American history. And that continued over the last few years, despite the fact that the corporate rate went down, 10, 15 points to 21%. Right? This whole idea of, oh, man, the corporations aren't going to pay their fair share. The government made more money than it ever had. So I'm with Elon. I always want to see more cuts. I always think there's more waste to chop out of the federal government. But the House did not have that in their version of the big, beautiful bill. So the president did one of his impromptu press conferences yesterday. And to his credit, he addressed this. Here is what Donald Trump had to say.
One big, beautiful bill, saying he was disappointed it didn't cut enough, essentially, that it undercut the Doge efforts. What's your reaction to that?
Well, the reaction's a lot of things. Number one, we have to get a lot of votes. We can't be cutting. We need to get a lot of support, and we have a lot of support. We had to get it through the House. The House was. We have no Democrats. If it's up to the Democrats, they'll take the 65% increase. If that doesn't get approved, this country is going to have a 65% increase in taxes and lots of other problems, big problems, almost bigger than that. But we'll have a 65% increase as opposed to the largest tax cut in the history of our country. We will be negotiating that bill, and I'm not happy about certain aspects of it, but I'm thrilled by other aspects of it. That's the way they go. It's very big. It's the big, beautiful bill. But the beautiful is because of all of the things we have.
So Trump's saying there at the end, and maybe somewhat admitting that it's the big, beautiful bill, but maybe it needs to be adjusted on a name basis. I mean, I don't want to go any longer than the big, beautiful bill, but he's admitting every part of the bill may not be as beautiful as other parts of the bill. And that's to be expected. It is Congress, after all. I mean, asking them to do anything that's all that beautiful probably isn't fair. I don't think they've done anything beautiful in my lifetime. I can't speak to yours, but I can't think of that one thing in my lifetime that has truly been beautiful. Rarely are bills beautiful coming out of Congress. But to Trump's point, we've got a very slim majority here. That vote last week was 215 to 214. And you don't have a lot of margin for error. Everybody's going to want something. Everybody can theoretically call themselves the deciding vote on this. So it's never going to be as beautiful as the big, beautiful bill name would suggest that it is. Now, I was with Mark Alford, one of our Missouri congressmen, of course, former Fox 4 anchor here in town last night in Lamar, Missouri. We were down there for an event with Americans for Prosperity, and I asked him about this criticism from Elon. And what he noted here is that a lot of the cuts Doge is doing do not need congressional approval. They can be done through executive powers, and they don't have to be part of a big, beautiful bill. There are just cuts that can be made from DOGE, recommended to the executive branch, and they can do it themselves. Now, of course, the downside of that is if you get a Democrat back in the White House, they can jam all that spending back in, right? Like, that is a downside. I asked him about it. And then he alluded to this. He said, we have to do what we can realistically get done and get passed right now. We've got to make sure we hold the House in 2026. And if we can possibly grow some margins, especially in the House in 2026, then you can start making some of these cuts permanent through Congress. But basically, he said, we just don't have the bodies right now. We don't have the votes to do a lot of this stuff that DOGE would ideally want us to do. But we're trying to give the executive branch as much leeway as it can to cut what it legally can and get this stuff out of the budget without having to include it in a big, beautiful bill or any kind of package through Congress, because we don't think we can get it to pass. And if we could possibly grow our majorities coming up here in the next year and a half or so, then we've got a little more room to work with. So that was what Mark Alford was alluding to yesterday. I don't think he's wrong. I get what he's saying there. I understand that you got to be realistic, and I never want to let perfect be the enemy of good. But, as someone who is really excited, and I know many of you were as well, really excited to see DOGE get to work and see them just expose so much of the wasteful spending that Republicans have talked a big game about. I mean, for basically my entire adult voting life, going back to Obama's first term, Republicans were always like, if we get power, don't you worry, we are going to take down this deficit. Oh, man, we're going to turn this thing around. And then they get some power, and it's like, yeah, about that. Boy, yeah, we're doing our best. Not that easy. It's like, okay, well, those campaign promises sure sounded good, and now it's awfully disappointing to hear, we need more majorities.
Making the sausage, you start to hear.
Oh, yeah. You get a lot of the old cliches. So I'm with them. But I also understand the reality of the situation. And that's where I'm willing to give a little leeway on this thing. And that's where Trump also is saying, hey, I don't have much room to work with here. There's not a lot of margin for error. So I'm trying to be realistic about this thing. And job one is to extend the 2017 tax cuts, because if not, you would see a massive tax increase in this country. And it would not be about the big bad corporations that Bernie Sanders likes to dump on, and AOC and so many others. It would be a massive hit to small businesses who are the backbone of the country and have gotten royally screwed when it comes to their input costs, courtesy of pops and inflation the last few years. So that really is job one, and that's where all the focus is right now. Coming up on KCMO, a shocker, a CEO you would not expect giving this administration some love. We'll tell you who next. Love will tell you who next.
On Thursday's Guy Benson Show, we're broadcasting live from the Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley, California. Coming up at 2 o'clock on 95.7 KCMO.
Okay, this is completely inexcusable on the text line. Pete, I can't hear you on 95.7 FM. Yes, we've got the big, beautiful engineers heading out to fix the signal. We are still broadcasting on 7:10 a.m., and you've got an excuse now, if you haven't, to download the KCMO Talk Radio app. But on the text line, someone says, I can't hear you. And we just wrote back 7:10 a.m. And the texter writes back, hell yeah, you had me listening to NPR. Not good. That is not an alternative to this show and this station. We've got multiple other ways to get us. I do not want you feeling like you have to go listen to National Panhandler Radio this morning, please, or ever for that matter. Don't do it to yourself. You're too smart. This audience is way too smart for that. The only time we can talk about NPR is if we're talking about defunding them. That's it. Or if we want to make fun of their koozies or make fun of their keychains or anything else.
Tote bags.
Yeah, the tote bags.
Coffee mugs.
Yes, go down the list. Pins, that's it. And I don't know about you. The only time I would ever wear a pin is on a sport jacket where you've got an obvious hole for the pin. Why you would put a pin on a shirt that then you have a hole in for the rest of the time you own that shirt, I've never understood.
You have to wear the ribbon.
Yeah, you
Come
got
on, Kramer. Right?
Yes. Seinfeld reference, 6:36. You're done for the day, John. Please pack up and go home. You're good, man. Nice work. But that is never a solution if we are having a technical problem. National Panhandler Radio. Please don't do that to yourself. So look at this, a little bit of love from somebody that you would not expect yesterday from NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang. So they gave their earnings yesterday, and NVIDIA, the massive AI tech giant, one of the Magnificent Seven stocks, reported earnings after hours last night and expect a big opening for NVIDIA. They beat all expectations yesterday for Q1, which was not expected. And afterwards, their CEO did multiple interviews, including this one, where he was talking about the future of the United States and was talking about President Trump. Now, remember, this tech community couldn't stand this guy during Trump 1.0. I mean, you had obviously Zuckerberg and all these people going all in for Biden back in 2020, but there's been a renaissance in the tech world where suddenly some of them are, if not cozying up to the current president, they're like, okay, we kind of get what this guy's doing. They are looking at him in a different light. And if I told you a few years ago that we would have Trump back in office and one of the most important CEOs on the planet would be praising this guy, I mean, you would think that you were living on a different planet. Instead, here was NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang talking last night about Donald Trump being a visionary on Bloomberg.
Said during the earnings call that you trust President Trump and that the president has a vision and a plan. Could I ask if you've talked to him about that plan and if it includes coordinating with NVIDIA on policy adjustment that relates to changes in technology export controls?
Well, obviously, I don't know all of his ideas, but let me tell you about two that are incredible. The first one is utterly visionary. The idea of tariffs being a pillar of a bold vision to reindustrialize, to onshore manufacturing, and motivate the world to invest in the United States. And it's just an incredible vision. I think this is going to be a transformative idea for the next century for us. We're all in on the idea. We're setting up plants and encouraging our partners from around the world to invest in the United States, and we have a lot of stuff going on. And so I'm very excited about that. The second major idea is to rescind the AI diffusion rule, recognizing that this isn't about limiting American technology, but this is about accelerating American stacks around the world to make sure that before it's too late, that the world builds on American stacks during this extraordinary time, the AI era. And so these two initiatives are completely visionary, and it's going to be transformative for America.
Transformative for America. Now, you might be just thinking, hey, these CEOs are just trying to kiss the ring.
Such a nice man.
Trump will end up saying, yes, my great buddy, my good pal, the NVIDIA CEO, Jensen Huang. How do we say his name? I could see Trump doing something like that today from the White House. He's a great man. Put that aside. The NVIDIA CEO has no reason to do this. The guy is arguably the most powerful CEO on the planet today. NVIDIA is going to have a massive day. They may set some new records today. Expect your 401ks to be up at least at the open coming up at 8:30 this morning because NVIDIA is such a big part of, if you've just got an S&P 500 mutual fund ETF, you own NVIDIA. Like, you don't have to own NVIDIA stock to benefit from NVIDIA having potentially a very good day in the markets after beating earnings last night. This guy doesn't really have much of a reason to kiss the ring of Donald Trump. He just doesn't. So for him to say that last night on Bloomberg after his earnings come out and beat expectations, that tells you a lot about where some of these tech folks in particular are on Donald Trump's business vision for America. And it's refreshing because, of course, we spent 2017 to 2021 being like, this guy's the worst, he's Hitler. And yes, there's still some of that, but man, it is not nearly at the level, especially from notable, powerful people, that it was 4 years ago, or I guess you would say 6-7 years ago at this point. Like, yeah, Rosie O'Donnell goes to Ireland. It's irrelevant.
Nobody cares.
It literally doesn't mean anything. The people that matter, they're at least seeing what the vision is here, which is absolutely valuable. 913-408-7957. That's our text line and our studio line on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. Pete, I think you got to get the Mundo in the Morning bumper stickers going. Not a big bumper sticker guy. I don't like putting things on my vehicles. That's just me. I love our friends at Volkswagen Lease Summit, so we have a couple of their cars now, and I don't know. I'm not going to slap a bumper sticker on there. I always like when I see political bumper stickers like Hillary Clinton 2016 bumper stickers. Those always give me a good laugh. I don't see a lot of Kamala bumper stickers. Even Kamala voters were like, this is probably not a good idea. So I'm just not a bumper sticker guy, John.
You ever notice that the bumper sticker people don't have just one?
Yes.
Oh, look, they have a dog and a small child. Get the characters of the family sometimes.
And there are
a variety of things about peace. And
yes, I was going to say there are certain voters, too, who prefer bumper stickers. Bernie Sanders voters love their bumper stickers.
Yeah.
Right? If you were to just go off of bumper stickers, you would have think that Bernie Sanders has been elected president like 3 times in this country.
Well, he's smart. He makes the stickers big so he can use them as auto repair on some of the vehicles those guys drive, covers up rust and holds together the bumper to the body.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, my goodness. We will get to the 6 at 6, the top 6 stories in the 6 o'clock hour that you've got to know. Coming up here on 95.7 at 8:40, or not on 95.7. We are on 7:10 a.m. this morning. We've got our engineering crew heading out to the tower site to correct the 95.7 FM signal. So stream us on the KCMO Talk Radio app or go old school on 7:10 a.m. And as soon as 95.7 FM is back up, we will let you know here on KCMO. We've got the 6 at 6, top 6 stories that you need to know in the 6 o'clock hour next. All right, as you are hopefully getting up, I hope that you're not having any plumbing issues like we are having technical issues here in the studio. But if you are, or when you are in need of that plumber next, The Plumbing Pro is your locally owned business here in Kansas City since 1978 that can check off all of the boxes that you're looking for in your plumber. Reliability, professionalism, quality workmanship, transparency, and outstanding customer service. So when you've been in business for 50 years here in Kansas City, you know what you're doing, and you know that this town trusts you. And that's what Steve and his team have been doing for going on 50 years. When you talk to Steve, he'll tell you that any success they've enjoyed is really just the result of how they've treated people along the way. So when you need a plumber, you need the Plumbing Pro. Notice how I put the emphasis on the. Why is that? Because if you just Google Plumbing Pro, you've got some of these other companies that are going to try to trick you into thinking they're the plumbing pro. But there is only one, the plumbing pro in Kansas City. Go to their website directly. It's theplumbingpro.com. That's theplumbingpro.com.
From the nation's heartland, it's Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
6:50. Good morning. Glad you're here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We are streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. And yes, we are back up on the old 95.7 FM. So a round of applause for the engineering crack staff out there at the towers. Thank you very much there, boys. We appreciate you. It is that time of the morning. Let's do it.
It's time for the 6 at 6 on 95.7 KCMO Talk Radio.
Top 6 stories to get to here in the 6 o'clock hour.
Number 1.
Well, the big news that dropped yesterday afternoon, courtesy of the Kansas Business Journal, that a Royals affiliate this month bought a large loan backed by Overland Park's Asperia campus, formerly Sprint Center, or formerly the Sprint campus, which is potentially, of course, a target location for a team stadium. Property owner Occidental Management, Inc. told investors the transaction happened without its knowledge or support, potentially teeing up complications for future stadium plans. The Royals, in a statement, said that they continue to explore all options for a new stadium in the community. A spokesperson said the team has not yet decided on a site and that any assertion to the contrary is inaccurate. So after making some calls yesterday, I can tell you that this is more of a business deal by a Royals business affiliate than it is anything to do with where the team wants to ultimately end up building a new baseball stadium. But the timing is awful for them because I know for a fact that Royals leadership and their lobbyists were actively calling leaders in Jefferson City, explaining to them that this is not what they might perceive it to be. Missouri has the special session on the stadium issue for the Chiefs and the Royals coming up starting on Monday, and they wanted to get the message out loud and clear that this is not in any way about them trying to go behind Missouri's back because they're ultimately going to end up in Kansas. So I can tell you that this is not some type of signaling like the Royals are going to end up down at 119th and all. That is not what this is about.
Number 2.
For the 6 at 6 tragedy, South Kansas City, 2 were killed last night in the south part of Kansas City. Police detectives are investigating a shooting that left 2 people dead. This was just after 9 p.m., 96th Terrace and Fremont Avenue. Officers arrived on the scene. They located 2 victims, a man and a woman suffering from gunshot wounds. Officers immediately began performing life-saving measures, but medics declared both victims dead on the scene, and they have not been identified. No suspect is reported to be in custody at this time. But you have seen an uptick in violent crime in South Kansas City. We talk a lot about the criminal issues right now in Kansas City, and whether it's property crime, whether it's sideshows, whatever it might be, there are obviously a ton of problems. The homicides have come down slightly, but you're seeing more homicides in parts of Kansas City that you typically and historically have not seen them, like in the Northland and also South Kansas City. The east side of Kansas City, the most violent part of Kansas City, actually has seen a bit of a downtick or a larger downtick in homicides, whereas some of these other parts of town are seeing an increase in homicides, including South Kansas City.
Number 3.
In the 6 at 6, well, this is some welcome news. A teen who has been missing since January 2nd in Kansas City was found safe yesterday. 14-year-old girl reported missing back on January 2nd was found safe yesterday, according to KCPD. There's no information on where Taylor Dennis was found, but she was reported missing after last being seen 3 a.m. January 2nd in the area of the 1300 block of Cleveland Avenue. And she was found yesterday and reported safe. We don't have really any details as to where she was found and what kind of condition or anything like that. But we do know after nearly 6 months of being missing, she has been found safe. So that is welcome news.
Number 4.
Well, market futures rallied ahead of the open this morning after a federal trade court struck down President Trump's sweeping tariffs. Wall Street Journal reporting here, the S&P futures rose about 1%, and tech stocks got an extra boost from NVIDIA's earnings that beat expectations last night, which showed the chip maker's sales continuing to boom despite it being shut out of China. The court's ruling late last night, blocking one of the administration's most audacious assertions of executive power, this is from the Wall Street Journal, voids many of the levies that sparked a global trade war and roiled the world economy. The Trump administration plans to appeal The order also blows a hole in the trade talks underway with more than a dozen nations and throws into question recent agreements with the UK and China. Now, this doesn't cover all of the administration's tariffs. Duties on products such as steel and aluminum and levies planned on industries like lumber and semiconductors are justified under a different law. But the market's liking what the courts did last night, and there has been a slight uptick in the futures ahead of the opening bell at 8:30 this morning.
Number 5.
Well, I'll just throw this in there. I saw this and I was like, man, can't even fathom it. Justin Bieber's wife has sold her cosmetics company for $1 billion. She built this brand, ELF Beauty, in 3 years into a $1 billion brand. ELF Beauty agreed to pay equity holders $800 million at closing, including $600 million in cash, $200 million in new shares, and depending on the brand's growth over the next 3 years, ELF could pay as much as $200 million more. So 3 years, build up a beauty brand, pocket blushes, lip tints, things like that, part of Mark's morning makeup routine when he sits on the other side of the glass. And now you've got a $1 billion sale on your hands if you are Hailey Bieber, the wife of Justin Bieber. So go figure. Look at that, Mark.
Nice work by her.
Yeah, it's good work if you can get it. Start a beauty brand, and in 3 years, you got yourself a $1 billion sale on your hands. My goodness, that's impressive. Wow.
Number 6.
Well, we'll end it with the Kansas City Royals getting a win against the Reds, salvaging one game of the 3-game series. Of course, a 3-2 victory because the Royals seem to win every game by a score of 3-2. They either are going to lose 7-3 or win 3-2, right? That's just how it goes this year for this team. They needed that one. They get the win, the salvage, the last game of the 3-game series. And now they have a day off before opening up tomorrow at home against the Tigers. And
Gonna
today,
get a round of golf.
yeah,
Not today.
not today, although you
Well,
might
not this
see
morning anyway.
you might see some of the Royals out at Topgolf later. Dayton Moore is having his fundraiser for his See You in the Major Leagues event. I'll be out there at Topgolf with him for his fundraiser today for the Royals, former Royals general manager. And who knows, you may have a Royal or two pop over to that event at Topgolf. So if you're heading out that way today, we will see you as part of Dayton Moore's great fundraiser for his awesome organization, See You in the Major Leagues. Coming up, how is local media covering this new bombshell Royal story? It's a hoot. We'll share next.